And there we go. Awesome. Take it away, Anton.
All right. Hey everyone. So, yeah, my name is Anton Lindenblatt. I am the library assistant here at CMC Prairie, and as well as the engraver of the Violet Archer collection. And today we are going to talk all about Dorico. So, like many of you here, I'm also a composer and engraver and copyist, and that's kind of how I ended up doing all this. So, for those of you who don't know, may not know, Violet Archer is kind of like the patron saint of CMC Prairie. She's a huge seminal figure in Canadian music. We've got so many of her scores in the library, and people want to play them. The only problem is they're handwritten. So my job has been kind of taking them into the 21st century and engraving them. And for that, I've been using Dorico. And because I've been doing this for the last couple months, I've kind of become a Dorico whiz by accident. And like many of you may be here, I am a Finale refugee myself. So my hope with these sessions is to get you more comfortable with Dorico, even if you're not using Finale, you're using any other software, and just make you feel less like a dummy and more like a smarty, perhaps. So let's share this. Okay, first off, can everyone see my screen? I will take
Yes.
that as a resounding yes. Okay, so if you don't have Dorico, you don't have to, you can just follow along what's happening on the screen. If you do have Dorico and you want to try some of the stuff we're doing, it's great. My one disclaimer right off the bat, so there are several versions of Dorico you can get. There's the free version, SE, there's Elements, Pro. I am using Pro. A lot of the basic features of it that we'll cover in today's session can be used in all of Dorico, all the Dorico editions. However, there are some features, especially the ones we're going to cover in the next session, that will be available only to Pro users. But I'm gonna go through all these today, and we'll take it off top. So when you open Dorico, the first thing you're going to see is what's known as the hub here. So you can show all your, it'll normally show all your most recent files. You can create new stuff, create templates. You can also create your own templates, which I can show you how to do later on. Over here's the Learn tab. So for if you are these sessions, or if you just want more tutorials, you can go over to the Learn tab, and it will provide, there's videos, there's project templates, and all the extra resources available. And then this What's New tab.
Would you like to get started with Dorico?
This What's New tab is just all the newest updates available. So we're going to go back to templates. And as you can see, you've got different templates for different things. If you are creating your own templates, they'll show up. I'm a band composer. I write a lot of band stuff. So I create a lot of custom templates for that. And anytime you use a custom one, they'll just show up on the side here. But for now, we're just going to start with an empty project. And actually, I forgot to mention, when you start a new project, show it right now, there will be, you can fill out information on the side if you kind of have an idea of what you want your project to look like. So your title, project composer, meter, key signature, things like that. But you don't have to do that right away. So I will just that full screen so you can all see. So right off the bat, so the thing to know about Dorico is the workflow is kind of, it's designed to be done in stages. So especially if you're coming from Finale or Sibelius, you might do a lot of, note input, then you do some layout editing and formatting, then you might do some more input. There's kind of a lot of back and forth. With Dorico, it is designed specifically to go like a left to right. So you set up, then you do all your note input, then you do your engraving, maybe tweak some playback stuff, and then finally printing and exporting. So we've got a couple tabs here to note. So players are your instruments. They'll always show up on the side here. Flows is Dorico's terms for movements. So a flow is just one kind of, I guess, movement or whatever you will of music. You can have multiple flows of project. Think of it like multiple movements. A lot of flows are important, as a lot of your setup is going to be dictated by how you structure your flows. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then on the side, you've got your layouts tab, which will show all the different like parts and score layouts you can have. But we'll start by just talking players. So right off the bat, whereas some software, it'll just ask you to pick instruments and just go from there. With players, Dorico allows you to treats it a bit differently. So a single player is one individual instrument. So think like a solo violin, piano, or maybe one flute in an orchestral part. So like flute 1 and flute 2. Those are individual players. When you're writing either orchestral or wind band, you usually use single players. Section players are similar, but from Dorico's standpoint, it's a group of players, like a whole section. So here they say a violin 1 section or soprano. That's when you're going to have multiple people playing in a section. The major difference between a section player and a single player comes down to condensing rules, which we will talk about in a later section, and divisi. So section players can be divided into smaller subgroups because they are multiple players. Single players cannot. So that's important if you are working with large ensembles that get split up into like 12 different divises. And then ensembles are just kind of like presets that allow you to add multiple players at once. So for example, you can add an entire string section or a string quartet, or let's say double woodwinds, without having to manually do it. But for now, we're just going to start with a single player. So I will choose, we're going to go flute, nice and easy. So you can either, when you're searching for instruments, you can either go via the family and scroll. Don't recommend that because there are, but you can just go through and see what's available. For instruments that are pitched in multiple keys, for example, a clarinet, you can pick the instrument, and then from the side here, you can pick the transposition. So we'll just stick with flute for now. So as you can see here, your players show up on the side, and then we've got our layouts here. If you want to add a second player, you can just go down to, sorry, I've got a zoom tab in the way. You can just go down to this button right here, and this will add a second player. The little two guys would be sections. Right here is ensemble, and then you've got more options over here. So if I want to add a second flute, I can do that. Notice how it will show as two separate players here and two different layouts here, but here it is condensed to show one stave. You can set it up so they do not condense. I'll show you how to do that later. But by default, Dorico will condense players that share the same instrument. So we'll just stick with this guy for now. So yeah, here's flute. Notice we don't have any music or meter yet. We will do that in the next stage. If, for example, your flautist is doubling on, let's say, piccolo or alto flute, you press this button here, this little plus on the side, and you can add your doubling. We're going to go with the C piccolo because who is using D flat in the 21st century? Now, notice right now it does not show there's a piccolo. In setup mode, it's only going to show the first instrument you add to the flow. So whatever's on the top on the side here is going to be the one that shows. We can drag these and move them around. So if you are starting off piccolo, you can move that around. Notice it will change the name. You can, if you click these three dots here, there are more options. So if you want to not call this piccolo, you want to call this ocarina, you can change the name. But yeah, a player can hold as many instruments as it wants. There is no limit. But yeah, these guys can hold multiple instruments. Section players cannot. So that is one other distinction to make. Single players can double, sections cannot. Anyway, so yeah, just to recap, we've got players on the side. That's going to show all our players available. Flows are going to show your movements. And if you want to add another flow, you just press this button right here, and it will start on the next page. Notice how it is labeled flow 2. So this way, if you are working multiple movements, you can keep them separate and kind of go back and forth. This eliminates the need to have a separate file for each movement, unless you still prefer to do that. Yeah. So that is setup mode. It's pretty straightforward. As you go along, you'll find more of, you'll kind of get into a rhythm of how it works. Some things to note on the side here. So there are different layouts. There's full score and parts. The difference between the two is full score will automatically condense by default and will show all the instruments, whereas each layout will only show the instruments selected. So if I were to add, say, a clarinet, and you can add more instruments by going on Mac, you can go Command-Shift-I. All right, so let's say I add a clarinet. So the full score is going to show both of them. And then if I switch to the part, it's just going to show that. If I wanted to add the flute and piccolo to the clarinet part, I can simply press the button here and it will do both. But for all intents and purposes, that's all you need to know about setup mode right now. So let's say you've kind of set up your project. You've got all your instruments, you've got all your flows ready, and you're ready to get writing. Next, you can press write mode up here, or if you are on, or you can use either command 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to switch between the modes. Or if you are on PC, you would go control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, now that we're ready to write, we go into write mode. So some things to notice about write mode. So we've got two things on the side here. We've got this is for all our note entry, and this is for popovers. I'm going to explain what popovers are in a bit. These are what allow you to add all your markings, but for now we will just focus on these guys. So when you start a new project, you're not going to be given a time signature unless you specify that at the beginning. So what you do, you just press any bar and you can add your time signature. And I realize I'm actually still on score mode, so we'll go back to the full score. And then you can just add as many bars as you like. To open the bar line pop-up is Shift B on both PC and Mac. So I'll just add 20 bars for now. Now, some things to note. Up here, we've got what's known as the system track. This allows you to select measures, everything that's in them. you can filter out. So if you press Control on either PC or Mac, and then right click, it will bring up this little side menu, which allows you to copy, paste, and modify all your in-measure, your notes and in-measure content, as well as filter things. I don't have anything in here, so I can't really show you the filter function yet, but just know that is a thing. So to enter notes, there are two ways of doing this. You can either use what's kind of akin to Finale's simple entry, or you can use MIDI. So to start note input, you either press this button right here on the side, start note input, or you can do Shift N. That will bring up, that will allow you to select any of these guys and start inputting notes. By default, Dorico is duration before pitch. So if you want to, so you need to pick the duration you want to use first and then the pitch. However, you can also specify that in your system settings to do the other way around. I can show you that later. So we'll just enter some notes. So this one's pretty straightforward. Let's say you want an A, you just press an A on your keyboard and that should show. If you want, you can just press notes on your keyboard and I'll show. If you're using a MIDI keyboard, the same thing applies. You can just press, I don't have my MIDI keyboard turned on, but you can just press the keys on your keyboard and they will appear. Just know they will appear on your music in the octave you use them in, or it is set, you're pressing. To change the duration of your notes, so they're listed on the side here. You can either, all you have to do is click and deselect, or you can use the numbers on your keypad. The default is quarter note is 6, eighth note is 5, 16th note is 4, and getting lower and lower. I have it set so quarter note is 5, eighth note is 4, etc. That just lines up with MuseScore and Finale, which I've also used. So you can pick your duration. You can go all the way down if you really, really want to 1,000th of a note, or you can go up to longer than 2 whole notes together. But and that's if you click one of these arrows up here. But I'm certain most of you won't be doing that. To add articulation, so to add accidentals, you can either use the keypad here, or for a flat, you would press on your keyboard, on your computer keyboard, the minus key. For a sharp, you would press the equal sign. And for a natural, and this one threw me off for a bit, you press 0. If you want to add brackets and stuff, I'll show you how to do that in just a second. And then for double accidentals and some of the more microtonal stuff, there are additional options on the side here.
Anton, could I just jump in for a sec? There's a question for keyboard entry for D an octave higher. So I guess for, yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to change pitches, thank you for letting me know. If you want to change pitches, to go up diatonically, on Mac it is Option and the arrow key up. For chromatic, you would do Option Shift. Option Shift. If you want to change octaves, you would go Command Option arrow key, up or down. for rests, actually, before I cover articulations, so when you go into note entry mode, you might notice there are carets. So if you are writing and you want to do 4/8 notes, you can, so the caret is set up, and if you see on the side, there's a little this little button. This basically breaks up the measure into however many subdivisions you want. So if you're working with a lot of 16th notes and you want your rhythms you want to be able to move the caret along in a certain way, you can do that. So the caret just allows you to kind of skip through the measure. So for example, I can click here. Oh. I can just you can just click along and that will add the measure. For whatever reason, this isn't working. If you want to add a rest, you can either use the caret and move along, find the subdivision you want, press the note, or you can put the rest function on, and then whatever duration you've set, you can just do that. Let's see. Okay, articulations are, for staccato, so you can, of course, select any of the ones on the side here. There are also keyboard shortcuts. So I'm just going to write a little scale here. So for accent, you will press the square bracket on your keyboard, the left square bracket. For staccato, it is your right square bracket. And if you ever need a reminder of what these are, you can hover over the note, over the button itself, and it will tell you. For tenuto on Mac, you press, you go shift, backwards slash. Oh, sorry. You go slash, and then for staccato tenuto, backwards slash. On PC, it is shift 3, so the number sign, or sharp on your keyboard. For slurs, you either can press slur or press S. You can press the slur button. If you want to select a group of notes to add a slur, you can press the 2 notes in your grouping and press S. Or if you are writing along and you want to add a slur as you go, you press S to start the slur, go down, however many notes you want to slur, or up, whatever, and then press Shift S to stop the slur. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going. For marcato, it should be, it will be apostrophe, and those are the main ones I use. These other ones have shortcuts themselves, but I'm not usually using the staccatissimo or unstress. Any questions so far before I keep yapping? Cool.
And I just wanted to check in. So, Mark, you had some questions about shortcuts. Is this addressing your note input shortcut question? He's given you lots of shortcuts, so you've gone to buy quick. But just want to make sure that's you're clear.
We also have handouts that
And there's a question from Carol. Can you specify octave on keyboard when entering a note?
when you're using computer keyboard, you can't necessarily specify octave. You usually need a MIDI keyboard. So if you're playing in, depending on the instrument, Dorico will kind of figure out, if you're playing flute, it's not gonna give you like 10 ledger lines below the staff. It'll usually do somewhere in the comfortable range, but you'll usually have to adjust that yourself. If you're using a MIDI keyboard, you can just pluck whatever key and it will give you that correct octave.
And then there's a question from Mark. Can you do step input using the MIDI keyboard?
Yes, you can. You can use both. I know there's a way that's analogous to Finale Speedy Entry. I have not used a lot of Speedy Entry, so I can't speak to that specifically. But yes, you can use step entry with the MIDI keyboard. You can also record in time, but that's not a feature I'm going to talk about today. Any other questions?
Anton, I don't know if you were going to go through this later, but how to change what numbers correspond to which note values?
Yeah. So for all your system settings, keyboard commands and everything, on PC, so on Mac, it is Command, comma. On PC, it is Control, comma. This will bring up your Dorico-wide system menu. So here you can change pretty much everything here, how you want to autosave. For all changing duration, for changing keyboard shortcuts, so that includes the numbers for durations, you can go into key commands. So let's say I want to change my quarter note. You can look up quarter note.
Oh, are you frozen again, Anton? Come back to us.
Hello. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
are. Yeah, we can hear you now. Do you want to just repeat whatever you just said because we didn't catch it?
Cool. So to go to system settings, command or control apostrophe or comma, you can go down to key commands. If you want to say change your quarter note, you can look up quarter note in here. Go to note editing and note input, set note duration, and it will allow you to change durations and set key commands for each one. You can also, if you want to add MIDI commands to change that, this is where you can do that as well. And then for things like specifying pitch before or after duration, specifying how you want your accidentals to look, and different note input and editing settings, that's all here. Audio setup, that's all in this function. Any more questions before I keep going?
Yes, there's a question from David. For transposing instruments, if I want to enter notes in concert pitch from a keyboard, can I see it in concert pitch and then transpose it later? Or will it just automatically enter the note in the key for the instrument? I probably prefer to see and hear concert pitch while inputting.
Fantastic question. So you can switch. It's not showing anything different because neither have a key signature right now. If I were to put this in B flat major, now you can see you can switch between the two.
Does that answer your question, David? Not quite. Okay, do you want to hop on and just articulate what your question? Feel free to unmute.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not really strong with my transposition skills for transposing instruments. So if I've written something else in, well, let's just say C major, and I want to add a clarinet part, a B flat clarinet part, and I want to enter it via the MIDI keyboard. When I'm entering it, like I probably use real time with the metronome. When I'm entering it, will it automatically show up in its transposed proper key? or can I see it in concert pitch, even though it, um, with some instruments you get into ledger lines probably, like violas or something like that. But I'd probably rather see it in its concert pitch while I'm entering it, so that if I need to make corrections or whatever, I'm looking at the concert pitch while I'm looking at the key that I'm familiar with, inputting it on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, if you are in concert pitch and you're using a MIDI keyboard, I don't have my MIDI keyboard turned on, but it would show it would input and play those pitches as if it's in concert pitch. So if you were pressing F, G, A, B flat on the keyboard in concert pitch, it will show and sound that on the clarinet. And then when you switch to transpose pitch, it will automatically do that transposition for you. Does that
okay.
answer your question?
Well, I think so. Yeah. Um, yeah,
All right.
I think that's fine. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any more questions? All right. I'll take the silence as a resounding no. Keep going. Okay. So that is the basics of articulation. And you can edit anytime you need to edit how you want your articulations to look. If you press Command or Control 8 on your keyboard, this little bottom bar will pop up. This allows you to be a little more picky about how you want, say, your slur directions or articulation directions to look. You can specify using this bottom command bar.
Can you just repeat that? You cut out for a bit there.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you want to make any sort of edit, if you want to do any edit to any item in Dorico, you can press the command. If you press Command 8 or Control 8, this little bottom bar will show up. This allows you to change. This allows you to edit things a bit more. So let's say you want to show the accident. You want to show that that's F natural. You can hide or show, add brackets. This allows you to do some of the beaming changes. If there's any articulations, you can show. So there will be articulations of force, articulations of duration. Force is things like tenuto, accent. Duration would be things like staccato. So that allows you to show what position on the note. If you've ties, what direction. If you're using any sort of harmonics, you can adjust that here. Bracket your note heads, add fingerings. Yeah, for things like slurs, you can change the direction, style, how you want the curve to look, and where to start if it is tied. And that will apply for any of the items you show up in the pop-ups, which we are going to talk about next. The one thing to note with Dorico is local changes to global changes first. So any sort of change you make on the score, you ideally want to do kind of the big changes in the score first, and then I should specify. Dorico works globally to locally. So ideally, you make big changes in system settings, which I'll show you how to do first, and then you would do smaller local changes. For here, you can, if you just want to change all the staccatos in this, on this, just the staccato on this note, you can set it to local. For global, that will change all the staccatos or articulations or whatever in the project.
And we just have a quick question about square brackets. Elma is asking, can you put in square brackets as an editor?
Yes, you can. Do you mean, sorry, on the note head or the accidental?
Alma, do you just want to clarify what you're asking? Feel free to hop on and unmute. She says on the accent.
On the accent. I'm in engrave mode, which if we have time, I'll show you later. You can, I don't know if you can do it in write mode. But you can, if you add, you can specify brackets on the note head and the accidental. For the actual articulation, that's something you would do in engrave mode. But you can do it in Dorico. Any other questions? Excellent. All right, I'll take that as a keep talking. But yeah. So let's talk popovers. I'll try and get through this and cover as much as I can. So popovers are very uniquely a Dorico thing. Whereas in Finale, you had your expression tool, which would allow you to add dynamics and articulations and all sorts of text. That's the job of popovers here. So popovers allow you to use keyboard shortcuts to add most items in Finale without having to, find in Dorico without having to find a bunch of different menus. So there's two settings. You can either use the palettes, which will show all the items up on the side here, or if you want to just have the popover show up itself, you can press the little keyboard and that will give you the popover. I've also attached in the chat and in the follow-up email you'll get a list of all the popovers and all the different things you can type in so you can get used to that workflow. So I'm going to go through some of these. I'll go through the palettes first because those are usually the most straightforward. So clefs, so the treble clef shows all the clefs, including the weird ones that you're probably not going to use. I would love to see someone write something with mezzo-soprano clef, I'm just saying. As well as all your octave lines. For key signatures and tonality, so for all your microtonal, double accidentals, and even some of the microtonal, if you want to change your temperament, you can do that here. For clefs, I should specify the keyboard pop-up for both Mac and PC is Shift-C. You can type in, say I want to make this bass clef. So for treble clef, it's G. Bass clef is F. For the C clefs, if you want alto clef, you go CA, contra alto. For tenor, it is CT. For key signatures, when I'm usually inputting key signatures, it's Shift K. If I want to change the key, let's say to G major, it will do that automatically. When you are typing, you do have to specify case. Uppercase is major, lowercase is minor. So if I want to make this G flat minor, not an option. If I want to make this A flat minor, I have to specify lowercase for both. Meter, you can either use the pop-up here, or you can go Shift M. To create pickup bars, you can use this builder down here. And if you want to, for more options, you can also do, so Shift M. If you want to make it like an irregular, so show it as 4/4, but only have 3 measures in a bar, you can go Shift Option M oh, sorry, Shift Command. I actually don't remember the shortcut off my head, so you're going to ignore what I'm talking about. There are other options to do, I call them irregular time signatures. So if the display time signature is one thing, but it's actually showing another, or it's actually beamed as another, you can do that as well. For example, if I want to do 5, 8, but I wanted like a 3+2 grouping, you can specify that. And when you input the notes, it will beam it as a group of 3 followed by a group of 2. Or 2. And you can do that with 7, 8, or any of those compound time signatures. And you can get as complex as you want. You could do, I believe you can do half. You can even do like the, okay, maybe not. You can get really complex with meter, but yeah. Tempo, you've got all your presets down here. You can also tap if you want to figure out your tempo. So they've got kind of the absolute tempos with all their traditional Italian names. You can add gradual tempo changes. So your ritardandos, your morendos, your accelerandos, and you can also, if you're using those, you can add poco and molto to those. And if you want to change how those look, you can do so down here. You can also add relative tempo changes as well. And then if you want to reset your tempo, those are options, as well as add tempo equations. The tempo popover is Shift T. That one's pretty straightforward. For dynamics, you either can use the palette or press Control D. That will indicate the popover. That will indicate popover. So for dynamics, yeah, you can input any of these guys. You can also, if you want to say make this subito forte, you can type in sub F. It will automatically do that for you. If you want to change how your subito looks, that's what these options are down here for. So in Finale, I know that, and other programs, they have expression markings. So say you want to call this like Forte Cantabile, there isn't a separate popover for that. Instead, you actually use dynamics. So, and you can hide the dynamic. So let's say I want to say this is F Cantabile. If you don't want that dynamic to show, you can just hide the intensity marking, and that will give you your expression mark. But that is the way you do it with Dorico without having to create like extra text and mess around with things. For crescendos, it's pretty straightforward. You just press whatever passage you want to make a crescendo, and you do your hairpins. One thing you can also do if you have a target dynamic. So let's say this is crescendoing to mezzo forte. You can input that. Just note that the target dynamic will go to the next note not selected. So I selected these guys and I did the crescendo and the target dynamic. The selected notes will have the hairpin. The next like non-selected note will be the target dynamic. That is just one thing to note. So if you're trying to make like this F up here be the target dynamic, you have to select the notes before it for that to work. That's just one little thing. And yeah, you can do more dynamic customization on the side and on the bottom here. Ornaments, so everything from Baroque classical trills to arpeggios, glissandi, jazz articulations, so falls, scoops, and guitar is all here. For that, you just press Shift O, TR for trill, ARP for arpeggio. These ones are pretty straightforward. For tremolos and repeats, is repeat structures. So you can, and that is Shift R. You can either add your endings here, and all your, let's say I wanted to make this coda. You can do that here. Tremolos are also here. If you want to add a tremolo between two notes, or if you want to add a tremolo on one note, you just press Shift R and however many strokes. So let's say I want this to be a two strokes on that 8th note. I would press 2. I would give you that. If you want between two notes, you press Shift, slashes for however many beams in between, and then press 2 to notate it's between two notes. And you can also pick from these guys down here. For rhythm slashes, you can literally just select a region and it'll do the work for you. For bar repeats, you just select a region and you can drag out, and you can customize. If you want this to be every 2 bars, you can do that. A lot of that customization is again down here. For bar lines, you either press Shift B, and you can write in double, or that one doesn't work. You can either add in the shortcut or add them here. Shift B is also what allows you to add bars. So let's say I want to add an extra bar here. I would before this note, I would press Shift B, and I could add 1 bar before. You can also add bars at the end, or if you've got a bunch of extra bars left over at the end of the project and you don't want to use them, you can just say trim, and that will cut all that out. This one's pretty straightforward. For fermatas, breaths, and caesuras, it's all here. You would press Shift H. For fermata, it's fur. For breath, comma, and caesura, I believe, is the 2 slashes. And there are more options, and those have corresponding popovers. I don't remember them off the top of my head. For playing techniques, because I realize it is getting pretty late, do you have any more questions needing answered? All right, excellent. So playing techniques. These all have, so all the common ones are up here. So things like consort, adding vibrato, legato, the ones you're most likely to use will be up here. There's also, especially for extended techniques, each instrument group has their own. So like woodwinds, you can do if you want to add key clicks, flutter tongue, or like half mouthpiece. Those symbols are all there. Same with brass, including all mute notation. Unpitched and pitched percussion have their own, including all the pictorial symbols you might want to use. Keyboard for things like pedaling and, whether you want to, how much you want to pedal. For playing techniques, by the way, it is Shift P. I can type in, you can start typing and it will give you a drop-down list. Choral, so any sort of vowel modifications or techniques is located here. And strings, for all the million different extended techniques available, they're all listed here as well, both symbols and words. And you can add your own as well. If you press this button here, you can add your own new playing technique, specify how you want it to, if you want it to be a text or a graph. And you can actually, if you do choose to make it a graph, you can edit that yourself. And if there are playback techniques associated, you can do that as well. For guitar and harp pedals, those are also here. For harp, you can either calculate via here, or I'll show you the function, the shortcut, how to do that in a bit. For graphic notation, you can't do any of like the actual editing. So like if you want your lines to actually cross the stack, you have to go to engrave mode to do that. But you can add all your notation from write mode. But both horizontal and vertical are options.
Anton, before we move on, we just have
Yes.
a request to go back to the harp notation, which is always a
Yes.
key thing. Do you mind just going back to the harp settings and calculator?
Yes.
That just went by a little bit quick, I think. So we'll just try just do that demo one more time if you don't mind.
Okay, so for harp, so all the commands are also available here, but menus are annoying. If you want to calculate harp pedals, what you would do, I don't have a harp here, but you would go down to, you'd go into write, calculate harp pedals, and depending on if you've got notes in a certain passage or whatever you've written up to that point, it will calculate. And then it will give you the written thing. If you've got notes outside of the harp pedals, it will show in red. Now, you can use the menus, or you can do my favorite tool, and this works for literally everything in Dorico. You can use the jump bar. So if you press J, this will show. You can either go to whatever bar you'd like, or you can insert. So let's say I need to, I can literally just look up harp pedals and it will give me that command. And this works for every single thing in Dorico, like every single command or menu. So if you just want to pull up like a specific menu or pull up a specific task, especially if it doesn't have a shortcut related, you can do that. So yeah, if I wanted to shorten the duration of something, or literally every single command and menu is available with the jump bar and is probably faster than going through these guys. So one thing I'm going to mention before I keep going, or I'll just quickly, so yeah, cues. Over here is video. I have not used video yet, so I can't really speak on it, but Dorico has lots of resources for using markers and aligning whatever music you've got going on with video. Over here is comments. So when I'm doing Vile Archer stuff, I'm constantly going through the manuscript or whatever I'm engraving, and I've always got questions, so you can put those in to come back to review at a later date. You can also export it as a PDF file if you have like a long list of comments, grievances, I call them. You can go ahead and do that. And then Dorico's newest feature is proofreading. You can turn this off as well if it gets annoying, but Dorico will go through and look for any sort of mistakes or things that might be, not the most playable or notation. So let's say you've written like a quadruple stop on a violin. It will see that and go, no, you might want to change that. This is a very new feature, also only available in Pro, but it is something if you are interested in looking at, you can. Now, one more thing before I exit write mode is these three buttons down here. Page view, gallery view, fill view. Page view will show the first instrument available on the score, and it will show as a score layout. So if I have a full orchestral template, I'll just show you real quick. This is my own orchestral layout. Don't judge how it looks. Page view will show just the instrument. It will show everything's been condensed. Everything's, that's how it would look in the final score. Gallery view is where you can do most of your writing. It spreads everything out, including any instruments that are being doubled. So if we were to go back and add piccolo to my second flute, it will show up here, even if it doesn't show up in the final score. Ideally, you do most of your editing in gallery view, especially if you've condensing enabled, because if you've condensing enabled, you cannot write in a condensed part, which will have all the numbers squished together. What I really like that I can't really do that I couldn't figure out to do in other software is if you go into gallery view, you can press shift, start note input, and you can use your up and down arrows to add multiple notes at once. And one more thing, I actually realized I forgot to mention. Yeah, so that's gallery view. This is where you do most of your editing. The other one is fill view. This is a new feature, but it condenses everything into whatever size your window is. So if I were to only have this take up a little bit of my screen, it's going to condense all my parts to fit what's on my screen, and it allows for more flexible viewing. I don't really use this one too much, but that is a new thing. One other thing I realized I forgot to talk about when going through this is how you input chords. So if you're on a MIDI keyboard, it's pretty simple. You just press the keys and you can create a chord. If you want to add multiple notes, you either press Q, which will show the chord button, or if you want to add intervals, you press Shift I. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to put the chord note here. If I want to add a minor sixth or major sixth, oops, you can do that. You can add augmented chords. You can add pretty much any interval you want. Those are both options. Any questions so far? I realize that is a lot of information, but hit me with your questions.
We do have a question from David. Can you
Yes.
import video to score to, or is that only for a DAW?
I'm not actually sure. I have not tried that feature. If you go to the either the Dorico handbook or the Dorico forum, they will show you step-by-step instructions how to do that. But I actually do not know, as I have not played around with that yet.
And then also, have you tried the automatic piano reduction feature from an orchestral score?
I actually have not played around with it. I've done the condensing, but I haven't done a lot. That is one of the things I would like to try, is the piano reduction tool.
Maybe we can conduct some experiments and circle back next week.
Yes, that would be something I would cover next week. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question if you don't mind.
Go nuts.
When I go up to the help button on Dorico,
Yes.
when I go to Dorico help, I get a whole lot of stuff that I don't really want and it's not searchable. So I'm wondering what's the quickest way to find searchable Dorico help?
The quickest way, I've attached in the I can't remember if I've attached it in the chat. Oops, sorry. If you look up the Dorico handbook, it is like the Dorico online manual. It is a manual where you can search in like your question or whatever you need help with, and
Okay.
it will usually direct you there. It's faster than using the help button. There's also the forums. I guarantee you, if you look up your question followed by Dorico in Google, someone's asked that question and there will be an answer for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any more questions?
There's a comment from Neva. Shortcuts are very helpful. Indeed, they are.
Yes. They
Are
are
there-
the backbone.
Are there any other shortcuts that you're wondering about, Neva? And if there are things that you would like Anton to walk you through or have questions about that we can cover in next session, just yeah, feel free to drop in the chat or get in touch with us on email. Is it all right if I drop your email in the chat, Anton?
Please do. Please do.
Let me get the speed that I can type. All right, so you can feel free to get in touch with Anton at that address that I just popped in the chat.
Please bug me with all your questions. It doesn't matter what. I will help you with it. One final thing, because I where it has been an hour. I'm going to quickly run through menus, which again, you can look through the jump bar, or I will show you the shortcuts. So, Dorico works, again, kind of when you're trying to do any sort of engraving or like figuring out how you want your score layout, the idea is you go global first, local last. You do the big project-wide stuff first, and then as you need more and more minor adjustments, that's actually when you would use a lot of engrave mode, which I will show next week. So, Command Shift N. Oh, sorry.
Could you
Command
just
Shift-
repeat that? You just cut out for about 10 seconds there.
Okay, so for all notation, so like accidentals, note heads, how you want things to look, you go Shift Command M or N is in Nancy, and that will pull this up. So you can choose how you want, if you want cautionary accidentals, common practice, atonal, everything regarding that. Things like how you want your default bar lines, including how you want your final ones to look like. And there are a billion options for these. For how you want your beams to be grouped. And I'll cover a little bit more about how you can beam stuff next session. But all the options for that. And if you want to save for any menu, if you want to save your options, you can save them as default. You can, if you've done a bunch of changes, but you want to go back to your save defaults, you can do that. If you want to go back to Dorico's factory settings, you can do that. That's all options. For things like clefs, you can address these here. This is specifically for how the project layout, the notation is. Condensing, which I'll talk about later. These are all the different options when you condense all the parts into less staves or one stave. Note groupings. So Dorico has its default way of beaming things, but you can fix that here. Things like how you want your percussion to look, how you want your rests, time signatures, and how you want things with multiple voices to be displayed. Which I forgot to mention. So all this stuff down here, for layout, so how you want your page sizes and vertical spacing and everything, you're going to press, Command Shift L or Control Shift L on PC. That'll allow you to pick your page size, the spacing between your bars, how you want your margins to look, if you want your movements or flows to have headings. All that is available here, as well as things like how you want your instruments to, if you have instrument changes, how you want those to look, if you're using cues, showing harp pedals, condensing. There's a billion menus. I could spend a whole session talking about all of these. Staves and the difference between players and staves and systems, by the way, is staves and systems is how your staves will look versus the actions of the players themselves. You can show how you want your time signatures to look. And vertical spacing is for every and how you want those to be justified. You would usually use all this first before you do any of the manual adjustments in engrave mode. Sorry, there's a lot of talking. Thank you for being with me. For all the other engraving options, you're going to go Command-Shift-E. So this is for all your other stuff, how you want it to visually look on this Dave. You can spend hours playing around with this stuff. This is kind of what lets you do the nitty-gritty of your project. Go ahead. You can go ahead and look at these at your own leisure, but that is for all things engraving. For things like how you want your text to look, you can go to paragraph styles, and that will give you all these options as well. Finally, I'm going to end this by wrapping up on the other note entry stuff that I forgot to mention. So I'm just going to add time signature real quick. So if you want to add more than one voice, you press, so we start note input, press Shift-V, and that will allow you to add up to 4 voices. It'll just be plus, up and down, and then plus 2, down, 2 up. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to add any sort of tuplet, you press semicolon, and this little pop-up will appear. If you're working with triplets, and only with triplets, you don't have to. You can just press 3, and whatever duration you've got selected here will be the size of your tuplet. So if I want quarter note triplets, I can do that. For any other tuplet that is not a triplet, you're going to press semicolon. It will automatically give you a ratio. If you're doing triplets, you don't have to do a ratio. It will just be whatever duration you've selected. For any other tuplet, you have to do a duration. So if you want a quintuplet, you got to do 5 over 4. Or if you want a, And you can literally do tuplets of any size. It's kind of funny. And if you've got that selected, so you can keep selected though. It will prompt, you'll have to add another tuplet again. Grace notes are real simple. If you have no input on, you just press the forward-facing slash, and that will trigger grace notes. Again, it's whatever duration you've got selected. For ties, ties are a little funky. You just press, so you start your note, press the either T for tie or the button on the side, and it will tie the note. Now, Dorico will automatically change the note value or duration based on what beaming settings you have. If you want to force a specific duration or rhythm of any kind, you press O. O will unlock or will show the force duration button. Force duration will allow you to do that, and it won't autocorrect you. To untie, you have to press U or the scissor tool down here. That will break up the ties. If you just want to break up this group, you just have to snip it. I was kind of hoping to cover some of the other these guys, but that will be next session. Play and print are pretty straightforward. Engrave, for doing all the notation editing purposes, that's what I'm going to spend most of the time on. Finally, one final shortcut. If you want to ever switch between different parts, you just have to press W, and that will take you to the part of the thing you've selected. If you want to move between parts, you can either go here, press this menu, or you can press Command-Shift, on, I actually don't know the one on Mac, there is also commands to switch between layouts. So that was a lot of information. And I'm sure I did not cover everything and all your questions, but hopefully that gives you a rough idea of how Dorico works. What's great about Dorico is, I will stop sharing my screen now. What's great about Dorico is they have a billion different resources you can use. I will send a follow-up email with all the handouts I've included, plus links to Dorico's manual, forum, everything, their Facebook group even, because they're always active. They will have answers.
They will have answers.
Not claim to have all the answers, but I hope I was at least a good starting point. Thank you for listening. Thanks for coming to Dorico for Dummies. Yeah, I'll be sticking around if you have any other burning questions or things you want to talk about. But yeah, thank you for coming to our very first Pro D session of the year.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Anton. And yes, we have debates, Dorico or MuseScore. So maybe we do a session on MuseScore as well to help you decide.
I spent over 10 years learning MuseScore. I would be more than happy to do that. If the people want MuseScore, I can also do MuseScore.
Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Yeah, and as Anton mentioned, we'll send a follow-up email with the link to this so that you can revisit it as needed. And hopefully you had a chance to grab his contact info there to circle back to support you with your scoring needs and questions. David is asking, were you using version 5 or 6?
I was using 6. You can use 5 and like 95% of the tools will be the same. 6 just has some of the cool, fun, like proofreading features and like cutaway score things. But most of between 5 and 6, they're pretty much the same, and you will use either one with great results.
And just a reminder that we have another session next week, so we'll address some of those questions that came up and requests. And then also, this was kind of the intro session. We'll dive into things that are a bit more in depth next time. Is that correct, Anton?
Yes.
Great. And from Frank, thanks so much. I've been using Finale since the mid-1990s, so having the switch to Dorico feels daunting. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of amazing features in Dorico. And I think, yeah, you're not alone, Frank. That's why we're having these sessions.
It's one of those things that once you get used to the Dorico workflow, like especially if you're coming for Finale, I was on Finale for again like 15 years. I could not go back because it's just so much quicker to use Dorico and not have to go, which menu am I going through? Yeah, but it is a learning curve. It does take time. I will acknowledge that, but keep at it. Yeah.